It's all done and dusted. Pyramids FC are your 2024-2025 African Champions League champions. Let's discuss how they defeated Mamelodi Sundowns and got to this position after the break on the African Five-A-Side podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the African Football Report on the African Five-A-Side podcast. I am Maher Mezahi, and this podcast is brought to you by africasaCountry.com. I'm going to replug an article that I plugged in the last video called The Global Gateway to Nowhere. And it's basically looking at this flagship European Union development program, which has, promises investment and partnership, but it really has its tentacles in deep. And this article kind of warns African governments from engaging with it. So if that interests you, you can find the link to the article in the description below. But if you just want to talk about that little old ball, that rubber ball, that kangaroo leather ball that people run and kick around, that makes so many people happy and so many people sad, now let's talk about the CAF Champions League final. Pyramids FC are champions. That's an absolutely massive statement. We could start there. A club that really only started existing as it does now 7-8 years ago, and now they're at the summit. I think it almost reflects the global state of the game. When you see Paris Saint-Germain won the European Champions League, when you see the success of the Saudi clubs in the Asian Champions League, I believe Al Ahly is the one that won the Asian Champions League as well. It seems like foreign direct investment into football at a massive scale, when it's sustained, eventually translates into success. So cold hard economics in football, but really it's not. We can't, on one hand I say that, and then on the other hand I can't say that Mamelodi Sundowns don't invest tens of millions of dollars into their club as well. Same thing with Inter, yesterday. Yes, PSG spend more, and they have probably double the wage bill that Inter does. And the amount of money they spent on transfer fees over the last 5-6 years compared to Inter is on another level as well. But that's not to say that there's not massive investment at Inter as well from foreign entities often as well. So, yeah, it seems like there's a blueprint out there for how you can get success if you're a millionaire, if you're a billionaire, if you want a pet project in football. You just need to find the right people to run your club. And just like at PSG, they have the right people running the club. They have the right coach in place. It seems like that's the same case with Pyramids FC. They are a very professional club. When you look at even things like the marketing, the social media, not to mention the technical directors, the transfers that they brought in, and the coach, Krunoslav Jurcic, as annoying as he is on the touchline, just screaming and berating at the refs every 5 seconds. He did a hell of a job coaching this team throughout the entire year. And now they're on the verge of a double, maybe a treble, but definitely at least a double with the Egyptian Cup and with the African Champions League. Now, let's talk about the match. Going into this match, I thought Mamelodi Sundowns lined up exactly how I thought Miguel Cardozo would line up. It's not how I would have wanted to line up, of course. I wanted either Salles or Zwane on the left wing, preferably Zwane, but I didn't think he was ever going to use him there, or even, I don't know, somebody like Maseko or something like that. But I know that he would probably use either one of Matthews or Salles. He goes with Matthews. My whole thing, the entire Champions League, has been Teshrick Matthews. I understand he's supposed to be a promising player. I understand, he had the move to Borussia Dortmund and everything. Maybe his ceiling is high. I haven't seen much from him throughout this particular Champions League campaign to justify him starting matches for Mamelodi Sundowns. And today, there wasn't much difference there as well. Okay, so we line up with the 4-3-3 with Ronald Williams, captain and goalkeeper, of course. The back four, Modiba is left back, Mudau is right back, Labousse and Kakana as the center halves. No surprise there. They went back to that traditional three-man midfield of Allende, Mokoena, and Jaden Adams. Again, no surprise there. Ikram Reynolds retains his spot as a striker after he did a brilliant job in the first leg. Lucas Ribeiro, of course, Mamelodi Sundowns' best player this year. He starts on the right wing, and so the only question was the left wing. Miguel Cardozo and Flemmingberg, of course, they're going to go with Teshrick Matthews on the left wing. Pyramids, however, I thought they lined up a little bit differently. So the back four and the double pivot, they are the same. Shinawi as a goalkeeper, Hamdi and Chibi as the fullbacks, Marain Sami as the center halves, Mohamed Lashin and Blati Toure as the double pivot. Now, El Karti was the third midfielder, again, that's not a huge surprise. Ahmed Atif on the right wing, Fiston Mayle as a striker. Everything's the same as the first leg, except Ibrahim Adil, their talisman, their supernova, their star player, who usually plays on the left wing, who's been fit. He didn't start this match. Instead, Krunoslav Jurčić decides to start Ramadan Subhi, who this year has played more as like a center attacking midfielder. Earlier on in his career, as he was breaking through the ranks at Al Ahly or when he was playing at Stoke City, he did play on the left wing a lot. But this year, like most recently in the last 2-3 years, he's been more of a midfielder than a winger. So essentially what Jurčić is doing is almost lining up with almost like a, there's no wingers almost. I know Atif and Subhi can get out there on the wing, but it's a very narrow shape compared to if you have Adil and Mustafa Fethi. So with Atif and Subhi, he's really making sure that he's packing in as many midfielders as possible, making the midfield as dense as possible. We already know that Sundowns at times struggle to break teams down who sit, in this tight, compact shape, and he just really packed it in midfield. Krunoslav Jurčić did. And not only did that help defensively, but also in an attacking sense, it also, when you have that narrow midfield shape, it opens up space for the fullbacks to push forward. And so what really happened is what we're going to see in the first half. Pyramids FC, when they were dangerous, Again, it's not rocket science. It's not something that anybody didn't know, but they were dangerous from crosses. So yeah. So the match starts, and Mamelodi Sundowns are on the ball. And I thought this would be a match that maybe Pyramids might have a little bit more of possession, but no. Mamelodi Sundowns get on the ball and they dominate possession again. And they're passing along the back line, and Pyramids FC are sitting in the mid block. But it's slow. It's not incisive passing. It's slow. It's lateral. It's not really dynamic. And initially, in the first 10 minutes, I'm looking at Pyramids. I'm thinking, they're not actually going to sit back and defend, are they? Because when they tried to do that in the CAF Champions League against AFR Rabat, for example, and they nearly got knocked out. And so I was hoping they weren't going to do that. But in the first 10 minutes, it really seemed like Sundowns were going to be taking the game to Pyramids, even though they were not, again, slicing through Pyramids at all. They were mostly just keeping sterile possession. Now, around the 10-minute mark, Pyramids starts to grow into the game. Again, the midfielders stay narrow, the fullbacks are getting up, and the first chance of the match, I have it here. The 11th minute, Mohamed Hamdi, the left back, puts in a cross that goes all the way to the other side to the right winger, even though he's not really playing that wide. Atif, who was actually offside, but it was a very good chance. In the 13th minute, Mamelodi Sundowns respond with a free kick, and I love this because, again, we compare, Gulani Mokwena to Miguel Cardozo a lot. And I remember earlier in the year, people were asking me, what does Miguel Cardozo bring that Gulani Mokwena doesn't? What's the difference between the two? And one of the things that I really thought was a positive for Cardozo, I thought that Mamelodi Sundowns this year were a lot better with their set pieces. And this was an example of it in the 13th minute. You have a free kick around 35 yards out. Immediately, I'm thinking, Thibaut Mokwena, get this on target. And I'm thinking, guys, follow it in. I typed in my notes, make sure you follow the rebound. He can hit these hard. This goalkeeper is going to parry it. He hasn't been in great form recently, Ahmed Shinawi. So really, this could be a good chance for Mamelodi Sundowns. Instead, it's this beautiful routine where they fake, chip it over the top. And the ball comes to Ikram Rainers, who does a spinning volley, but eventually shoots the ball off target. I mean, it was a really good chance from the top of the box, around 15 to 18 yards away. But unfortunately, the volley goes wide for Mamelodi Sundowns. I loved the fact that they worked on these set pieces, and I wanted them to do other routines later on in the match, but this was the only really intricate, well-worked one that you could tell that was really hammered on the training pitch. Rainers here, I like the fact that he was decisive. I want that from my strikers. I want you to be decisive. I want you to shoot on target. But when I watched the replays, actually at halftime, when I watched it during the match, I didn't notice it. But at halftime, I was rewatching the chances. Look at his teammates. They were not happy with him taking that shot. I think what he was supposed to do was actually lay the ball off. He wasn't supposed to spin like that 180 degrees and take it one time on the volley. I think he was supposed to lay the ball off. I don't recall who was beside him, but I think somebody else that was beside him was supposed to take the final shot. Nonetheless, it was a good chance. And at 15 minutes, Mamelodi Sundowns are winning possession 55 to 45%. And they're, I think, fairly comfortable. You're thinking, okay, Sundowns are in the game here. They understand they have to score. It's been a problem all year for them, but they're on the front foot. Now, in the 17th minute, a pattern starts to emerge. Mamelodi Sundowns continue to have the ball, but they're not penetrating. They're not breaking down the Pyramids block. And Pyramids, this is the pattern that emerges. They don't have the ball. When they recover the ball, they play a long ball to Fiston Mayele or to Atif, or to Walid El-Karti. And from the 17th minute, really until the 30th minute, for those 15 minutes, that middle part of the first half, Pyramids FC win every single first ball in the air. So I'll give you an example. A defender recovers the ball for Pyramids FC from Mamelodi Sundowns. First instinct is to hit it to a target man up top. Let's say it's Walid El-Karti, or let's say it's Fiston Mayele. Let's say it's Walid El-Karti. He wins the flick on. Pyramids FC always win the aerial duel, the first one. And the flick on goes over, and then usually a Mamelodi Sundowns defender will sweep in and win the second ball, which is important. If you don't win the first ball, you have to win the second ball. But just the aggression on that first ball, I noticed from Pyramids FC. And that was something that was a pattern that was starting to emerge. So I'm thinking, okay, Pyramids are playing direct, and the fact that they kept winning the first ball was troubling me. In the 21st minute, Atif, the ball is on the left side of the pitch. It finds its way to the middle. It gets switched to the right winger, and you can see the right winger is not at all wide. If this was, I don't know, trying to think of good examples, but I don't know, sometimes, like players would be hugging the touchline. Atif is in the half space. He's almost in the center of the pitch. And then he plays the ball to Mohamed Shibi, who's streaking down the fullback, and he puts in a deflected cross that sort of loops over, and Fiston Mayele is in the 6-yard box, but he can't get it on target. And by the 21st minute, Pyramids have 3 half chances. Mamelodi Sundowns just have the one from the free kick. Again, they need to score, but Pyramids FC are creating more half chances. And in the 24th minute, we have our first goal. And again, it comes from that pattern of play that we're talking about. Marai, the center half, plays a long ball. Ahmed Atif, he goes up for the header. Okay, he doesn't win it this time, but nobody wins it. The ball bounces over. I think it's Modiba's head. And then Mayele this time wins a second ball. And then Atif continues the run. He plays Atif in. And now Atif gets on the ball. He puts in a cross that should be dealt with by Greg Kakana. This is a player that he's like, he's maybe 30 years old. He's a senior international. He's a captain at times, for Sundown. He's a leader of this team. This is not a place in time where you need to be cute and you need to recycle possession in your own 18-yard box. It's really an occasion that comes out of nowhere. It's gifted by Mamelodi Sundowns to Pyramids FC. And basically, I think what he's trying to do is instead of clearing the ball away, he's trying to play a short pass to his left back, Aubrey Modiba. But I don't know if he doesn't see Fiston Mayele or if he misjudges it a little bit, but the ball is intercepted by Fiston Mayele, who, without even hesitating, one touch, smashes the ball with a beautiful finish into the bottom corner of the goal. Ronald Williams can't get to it. And man, it's a hell of a goal. And it's one of those where it's like completely avoidable if you're Mamelodi Sundowns. Completely avoidable. And it's one that Pyramids FC makes you pay, and they show how decisive they can be, and how that's the right word, decisive, I think. 3 minutes later, Mohamed Shibi crosses a ball to Fiston Mayele, who seemed offside, but it's another chance. It doesn't get called offside, but it's another chance that comes from out wide, and it's the 4th chance that comes from a cross out wide in the entire half. It's interesting that at this point, the commentator on SABC where I was watching says, Mamelodi Sundowns, between the Al Ahly semi-final and between the final of the CAF Champions League, they didn't concede a goal for 700 minutes. Remember, they kept winning matches 2-0, 3-0, 2-0, 3-0. I think they're playing against Chippa and Magesi, and they didn't concede a single goal. And then they had conceded 2 goals in 30 minutes. When you consider the first one was at the 24th minute, and then the last one was in the last minute of the last game. So 2 goals in 30 minutes. It's like, that shows you that CAF Champions League is a different level to the PSL and to any really domestic league. I'm not trying to disrespect the PSL, any other league. Like, this is the top level, and you cannot make mistakes like that. Now, when we get into the last 15 minutes of the first half, you start getting Pyramids FC injuries. Ahmed El-Shenawi goes down, my knee. Mohamed Shibi goes down, and Pyramids really, they go and they break the rhythm and they regroup and they're reinforcing themselves. You could see they're saying to themselves, we need to see the first half out. We have the 1-0 lead. But at this point in time, nothing is really played because Mamelodi Sundowns had to score anyways coming into this match. Now, the fact that Pyramids score means that even if Sundowns score, we're going to penalties. Not Sundowns are not going to be, champions. But still, the formula for success hasn't really changed for Mamelodi Sundowns. You still need to score. In the 45th minute, this is a huge point in this match. Tashreeq Matthews misses a wide open chance. And it's Lucas Ribeiro, who we said needed to have a good game. And he had a really good game, particularly in the second half. But towards the end of the first half, he starts to really get involved. And he finds space, he dribbles, and he slips in Tashreeq Matthews. And it's just him and the goalkeeper. And if any of you have ever played football, like in moments like this, time is relative. If you're young and inexperienced and you're strong mentally and you're not a great finisher, which, again, I don't want to throw dirt on this kid because he does have talent and I think he has a lot of potential. But those are 4 labels that I would probably put on Tashreeq Matthews. On those occasions, you can feel very nervous and it feels like you don't have any time. It feels like, like you need to snatch at it, like I need to shoot. But if you ever see like Ronaldo, again, I know Tashreeq Matthews is not Brazilian Ronaldo, but if you watch like a very seasoned finisher in those positions, like Brazilian Ronaldo, Robert Lewandowski, Karim Benzema, top strikers, not even wingers, but really top strikers, it seems like they have all the time in the world. They'll dribble past the goalkeeper, they'll fake shots, the goalkeeper will go down, then they'll chip him over. Like, those are unmissable chances for players of that quality. And Tashreeq Matthews, initially I thought he shot it right at the goalkeeper, and that really pissed me off. I think it pissed off a lot. It was really telling to watch his teammates' reactions. Watch Aubrey Modiba, we're making a late run, throws himself on the floor, banging the floor like this. Lucas Ribeiro's jumping up out of frustration. It's like, man, even his teammates are extremely frustrated. But when I watched the replay back, I thought, I was a little bit harsh. He didn't shoot it directly at the goalkeeper. He took an angle. He tried to shoot it wide. The goalkeeper did a great job of sticking the leg out, but still, he has to score that chance. Like, he didn't shoot it directly at the goalkeeper. So it's not as bad of a miss as I initially thought it was when I watched the replay. It was a good save. Again, I'm repeating myself, but a top player finishes that. A top striker, a top winger finishes that. Those are the kinds of chances that you need to convert to win the CAF Champions League. On one hand, earlier in the half, you gift Pyramids FC a goal. And on the other hand, when you work to create a chance, you were not gifted it, and it's on a golden platter, you miss it. And again, you can't help, if you're a Mamelodi Sundowns supporter, you can't help but think, man, what if that was Mshishi? What if that was Temba Zwane? We won't know. Anyways, halftime, and it's 61% to 39% possession. Even though Pyramids FC have more shots, they have 6 shots to Mamelodi Sundowns' 5. I thought Sundowns had an okay first half. Besides the fact that they gifted a goal, if they didn't do that, I think they would have been fine. At halftime, Lunga subbed on for Modiba. It's not a substitution that I love, to be completely honest. I understand because Modiba had a yellow card and things were getting heated between him and Atif, and there were occasions where I thought, man, he literally headbutted Atif, who headbutted him back. Like, those are 2 stupid decisions from both players. If any one of them screams and grabs their face and the referee goes to VAR, he could maybe send them off. So I kind of get the decision to sub him off, but at the same time, man, I really wanted Modiba in this match. I think it's his kind of match, But Mamelodi Sundowns, to start the second half, I think there's a lot of good signs. Number one, Ribeiro is still on fire. He finishes the first half hot, and he comes out the second half, and he slips the ball into Ikram Rainers, who's making a beautiful run, who gets, a little bit of a half shove in the back, and he goes down, and thinking, man, why go down there? I think he had a chance to get to the ball, I understand if you win the free kick, it's a red card, and you're in a dangerous position, but it goes to VAR. Maybe people would argue that it's a foul. I think it's a half, it's a half foul. Yes, elsewhere on the pitch it gets called, but we know how these things work, like, that's a drastic decision that, unless it's a clear-cut foul, I don't think the referee's gonna make that call, So I think Rainers had to go and chase that ball. That was a poor decision on his part. In the 53rd minute, Thibaut Mokoena is shooting from a distance. It's his 3rd shot of the match. And again, this was like one of the keys to the match. I thought Mokoena needs to have 3 or 4 shots. He finishes the match with 4. So I thought this was a really good positive sign. Like these are good signs. Ribeiro is hot. Mokoena shooting from a distance. And then they concede a goal in the 55th minute. And Lunga is the one that makes the mistake in possession, gives the ball away, commits a cheap foul. And I swear to God, on my daughter's life, I'm watching Mohamed Chibi line up, and I'm thinking this is a goal. Like this, he's gonna put this right in the perfect place, right between the defending line and between the goalkeeper. I swear to God, I was 98% sure that it was gonna be a goal. I swear on my daughter's life, like. So and it was exactly that. This Moroccan fullback is such a brilliant crosser of the ball. I swear, I keep saying Trent Alexander-Arnold, and I know it's an exaggeration, but he's such a good crosser of the ball, and it's a shame that maybe the best right back in the world, who just won the European Champions League, Ashraf Hakimi, is ahead of him with the national team. But I really think he deserves a shot in the near future, at least as a second or third fullback. Really, really talented player, especially even in an attacking sense. But yeah, perfect ball in the perfect area. And Ahmed Sami scores with a diving header. It goes to VAR, who counts it. When I looked at the VAR replay, they counted Ahmed Sami's shoulder and Grant Kakana's shoulder, whereas Sami's head was more advanced than his shoulder. I thought that was a little bit bizarre. I don't know if you guys picked it up as well. Initially, when I saw it without the lines, I thought it was offside, to be completely honest. But it was a tight one anyways, and it's one of those where even if it was offside, it was marginal. It was maybe a few millimeters, and you have to defend that. Like it was not like another podcast I listened to. They have spiritually onside, spiritually on. That was spiritually onside. That was like that. It was millimeters. Defend that. Do a better job of defending. Don't rely on VAR. In the 64th minute, Miguel Cardozo was like, okay, let's get desperate. Let's throw on some subs. He brings on Peter Shalalili, Arturo Salas, and Tapelo Morena. And again, I'm thinking, why no Temba Zwane? Like that, please. Yeah, at 68th minute, we have Mokoena's 4th shot, which I mentioned. And really, now, like, after the substitution, from the 64th minute to the sub, until the 75th minute, there's like a 10-minute lull in the match where Sundowns are on the ball, but there's no dynamism. The front players on the front line are so static. Nobody's really moving. Doesn't look like they're going to score, to be honest. It seems like this is the theme of the final. And then they do in the 76th minute. And it's Ikram Rainers. And time again, go back and watch, the semifinals, the quarterfinals. How do Mamelodi Sundowns score? We said that there's 2 ways that they've scored in CAF Champions League. Number 1, Ronan Williams direct to Ikram Rainers. Number 2 is what? Number 2 is Peter Shalalile peeling off the center half towards the second post and somebody playing that long ball in, and either he scores or sometimes it's an own goal or he creates an opportunity that way. And that's exactly how he created the opportunity here. And you can tell that this is something that they work on, because as soon as he made that run, Marcelo Allende knew he had to play it to him. And it was offside. He was offside, I should say. Ahmed Sami is forced to play the ball because he's playing the offside. And then Ikram Rainers hits the rebound on the volley, and it deflects in. Now, it's one of those where I think it depends on how you interpret this rule. It's confusing when I think it comes down to the referee's discretion, to be completely honest. I can see arguments both ways, but, overall, like in general, by principle, when a player, in my opinion, forces a defender to defend like that, I can see that being offside, So again, I can understand the argument both ways. But that was a tight decision, I thought, as well. Tighter than most people made it out to be. In the 78th minute, Lebo Mutiba comes on. I saw online that that's his first professional appearance since December 17, 2023. I'm thinking, like, this guy really hates Temba Zwane. Like, everybody gets on except for Temba Zwane. But to be fair to Mutiba, like, he's a battering ram. He's a physical striker. I think that's what they needed at that moment in time. And to be fair, I thought he did pretty good, contesting aerial duels, chasing. It brought a lot of energy, I thought, to the squad when he came on. So it was good to see him back and playing football again. He's a very good striker, and I think he's going to have a lot to contribute with Mamelodi Sundowns going forward. And then really we have a point in the match between the 82nd minute to the 92nd minute, those 10 minutes. And Mamelodi Sundowns are all over Pyramids FC. You're thinking, man, they're going to score. There was an opportunity where there was like a free kick opportunity where this time it was too simple. Mokoena just, a simple thing. There was one where you had Ribeiro, faking the cross, cutting in on his left foot. outside of the boots of Shalulile, gets the flick on. You're thinking this is the goal, and Shinawi pulls off another clutch save. Credit to him. The Krunoslav Juricic, the Pyramids coach, man, right here, right, I'm screaming, send him off, man. He's yelling at the refs, and you get that tension, you know? Like, to be fair, those last 15 to 20 minutes for a neutral, man, the tension was, I was watching the match like this, like, hands on my knees, like I was a coach, you know? Like maybe 30 centimeters from the television set, and like, just, come on. The drama was palpable, and I really enjoyed the final 15 minutes of that match. Yeah, in the 90th minute, Ribeiro dribbles 60 yards of defenders trying to grab his shirt. He's like shaking him off. Plays a beautiful through ball into Arthur Salas, was a stupid back heel flick. And then the ball pops out to, I think it's Mokoeno, puts the ball into Shalulile, to Lunga, cross across the face of goal, and Shinawi hops on it again. Like, man, like, just really good end-to-end action. And eventually, in the 93rd minute, Pyramids FC, that experience, they find a way to defuse the situation. From the 93rd minute to the 97th, 98th minute, man, they kill at least half of stoppage time by just taking fouls smartly, you know, playing the field position game. You know, even if you're not completely in possession, maybe you clear the ball for a throw-in on the other side of the pitch, and then you bring everybody up and you trap them in that. And they were really playing intelligent football, and it really left just like 1 or 2 minutes at the very end where Sundowns were playing desperation balls, and of course Mamelodi Sundowns weren't able to capitalize them. So Pyramids FC win. What scenes at full time. You could see how much it meant to both sets of players, both sets of coaches. And I think ultimately, whether you're a Sundowns fan, whether you're a Pyramids fan, as long as this competition means that much to the players, to the fans, to the neutrals, we're in a good place in African football. That's what I really like to see. I like to see how much it means to people. I didn't watch all the trophy scenes at the very end of the European Champions League, but I swear it almost felt like the African Champions League meant more to those African players than the European one did to those European players. Maybe with the exception of like Marquinhos, who you could tell was really emotional, you know. And Paris, to be fair, they've been chasing that for a very long time. So, but I think if it was Real Madrid, you know, it would have meant more to the Sundowns players. Ultimately, if you're Mamelodi Sundowns, if you're looking back on this final, what lost you the match? There were two things that lost you the match. First of all, giving up the equalizer in the first leg. But there was no real huge defensive mistake there. But still, like, the fact that you were just a few minutes away from finishing that match 1-0 away from home, you keep the scoreline here in the second leg, you're a champion. And the second one was giving away that cheap goal in the first half here. Again, you don't do that, you're going to penalty kicks, and then it's 50-50. Ultimately, it's details. And you hear the coaches, you know, in the pre-match press conferences, they're always talking about details. These matches are won and lost with details. Now, I'm going to take an opportunity, maybe to the light of some Mamelodi Sundowns fans, to maybe rip a little bit on Miguel Cardozo, because he's been saying, I've been listening to his press conferences, he's been saying, you know, last year in the CAF Champions League final, we conceded an own goal, and then in the last 2 minutes of the match, we win a penalty. If the referee blows the penalty and we score the penalty, then it's 1-1, and then we're African champions. So these margins are so little, you know, you can't judge the entire body of my work. You can't judge on just these little things that are, he makes it seem almost as if they're random or arbitrary. First of all, that was not a penalty. The one that you keep saying was a penalty, it wasn't a penalty, number one. Number two, don't act like Al Ahly were not creating a crazy amount of chances against his Esperance team. Like, they hit the crossbar. They could have. There's such thing as making your own luck, you know? Like, I don't like these excuses. And I think it's these coaches are trying to protect their legacies and protect their reputation, protect their jobs. Like, oh, they make us think that football is a game of chance. Like, no, it's not a game of chance. Like, I understand that when you have two top sides, details matter. I understand that. But your decisions ultimately, they create a huge amount of luck. They create, like, and especially when you can point to things like, you know, the last match equalizer. Again, I don't put that on Cardozo so much, but get your players ready to play these finals. I mean, ultimately, when the main criticism against Rulani last year and then over the 6 years was they play beautiful football, Mamelodi Sundowns, but ultimately, the problem was that they concede stupid goals. They don't score enough goals. 1 year later, when we have Miguel Cardozo, he got them one step further in the CAF Champions League. Props, okay. But other than that, everything else is the same. They play a little bit uglier football, but at the same time, I guess we could say they're a little bit more pragmatic. Okay, Mamelodi Sundowns are. They won the league, like Kulani Makwana won the league. They lost the cups, like when Makwana oftentimes lost the cups as well. In the Champions League, in the crucial moments, concede stupid goals, and they were not creating enough chances to score. That's what ultimately what it comes down to. Miguel Cardozo, in the end, yes, football is a results-based business. It's not as arbitrary as you're making it seem. You need to take responsibility for, number one, squad management. The technical directors, they need to take responsibility for not signing good enough players. Sorry, Tashrik Matthews and Arthur Salas were not good enough this season. You had another quality player on the left wing. I think Mamelodi Sundowns are probably African champions. They need to take responsibility as well. And then you didn't have your team ready to play. And ultimately, your team was not creating enough goal-scoring opportunities, and they were conceding stupid goals as well. So you can make it seem like football's arbitrary, but it's not arbitrary at the end of the day. You make your own luck. And when it's this kind of body of work, when we're talking about 7-8 years, same group of players, same club with the same symptoms, then it's not just arbitrary and it's not just random. It's symptomatic of where the club is at the moment. So I think there needs to be, it feels harsh to say this. I don't know if there's one last dance with this Mamelodi Sundowns team, but I almost think that there maybe needs to be a pretty drastic shakeup with the personnel level. And this is going to be very harsh to say, and I don't want to say it, but I don't even know if Miguel Cardozo deserves to come back next season. And that's a crazy thing to say, I just don't see him progressing this team past the point where they are now. And again, the point where they are now is still very, very good. They're one of the best teams in Africa. But with the resources that they have, with the momentum they have, with the DNA they have, getting the right coach in should be able to take them to another level. This is a team that should be having a run like Al Ahly had, where they won. Maybe they're not going to win 4 out of 5 CAF Champions League titles, but they should be winning multiple CAF Champions League titles with the talent they have. And again, I just wonder about, like players like Tambazwane, players like, a few of these senior players. Maybe like Lucas Ribeiro, is he going to come back? Is Marcelo Allende going to come back? I don't know. It's going to be interesting summer ahead. But before all of that, we do have the Club World Cup. And I think, Miguel Cardozo could shift the perception around him with a very solid performance then. And I'm really looking forward to that. But let's put a bow on the CAF Champions League. It's been a hell of a season again. I thanked you guys all at the end of the preview. I'm going to thank you all one last time. Huge amount of momentum on this channel. Huge amount of just positive vibes, good football discussion. Everybody's sharing, everybody's liking, everybody's subscribing, everybody's commenting. I just wanted to thank you all from the very, very bottom of my heart. And like I said, a lot of good stuff coming in the works. So please, if you like it all, please keep it locked in. Do all of the things that are necessary to help the algorithm grow the channel. And I'll speak to you all very, very soon to recap the Champions League main storylines and maybe do a team of the tournament. All right, take care, all. Peace.